We got a fox outside making noise. Weird. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to build our RJ Speed digger. We're at least going to get it in roller form. This is part one. We are short on time, and I don't have any of this videoed yet, so here we go. If you've seen Wednesday's video, we unboxed it and explained exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to build this as the Little Red Wagon, the wheel standard truck. And after doing a little research, I did find out that that Little Red Wagon chassis was unique to only that model. The wheelbase is the same. The premise and the basic shape of the chassis is the same, but the truck had a different battery tray, and this chassis doesn't have provisions for it. And it had a longer tail section with a longer wheelie bar. The chances of this truck getting driven much more than just putted around is probably slim. Let's get started on it. Let's get this thing rolling and then see how far we get. All right, we went over some of this on the unboxing. There's not a whole lot to it. Here's your pretty much your chassis. Very basic. There's your axle, no diff. There's a wheelie bar and body post and some chassis braces. Hardware, bushings and some more hardware, steering knuckles, front suspension. As far as any extras, you get window mask and one little sheet of RJ Speed decals and one little strip of two-sided tape for your electronics. Very basic. Shouldn't take long. So let's dig in. All right, first step is bushings are already installed. Normally you put bearings automatically in anything, but the bushings in this car are better, in my opinion, just because of durability. This thing just gets beat up. There's no suspension. It's just that. So we're going to leave bushings in it. You could easily put 1/4 inch axle bearings in there if you really wanted to, but it's not going to be any advantage whatsoever. The chassis is super simple. We're just going to build a ladder frame, and the center brace, one of these center braces actually has threads on it, and we won't need that one simply because that one is for side body post, and we're not going to do that, not with the truck body. If you've ever built a Legends car, this is it basically. It's just a ladder style chassis, and they do have, which I don't know if this one does or not. It does not. The Legends car does have front springs. That's your only suspension on a Legends car. We would leave these side braces loose as a form of setup on the car as far as suspension goes. If you torque it down, you don't get any flex. If you leave it loose, you got a lot of flex. You can tune it with the flex of the chassis if you're racing it on oval. Okay, this center brace here is the one I was talking about. It's got the set screw already in it. That's intended to go through this hole here, and that is to have threads hanging out to screw a body post to, but we're not going to do that. Those are 540 size. I'm not sure if I got a 540 nut, but I got something that'll work. So we're going to go ahead and put it in there. We're just not going to use body post. Our body posts are going to have to go straight up on the back. We got to do some fabric cobbling to make that work. Yes, I've seen that roller just roll off the table. I'll get it here in just a second. Generally, things fall off this table, they disappear. They're gone forever. I hope that gets better in a couple weeks when we got our little carpet track set up in here. That's still a go. That will be the 1st of October, early October, and we'll be able to do some little micro racing in this winter. Found it. No spacers, which seems odd, but that thing's not going to get a whole lot of work out. It's just there for a little bit of protection, I guess. All right, there's the chassis, pretty much. We'll run some screws on this side. The electronics just kind of hang off the chassis. They don't really mount to anything. You just two-sided tape them to the car. This is early 80s design here, and even for early 80s, it's very basic. A little bit later on, we started racing a RJ Speed spec mods, and they have a very similar chassis setup as the Legends and this thing. But they did incorporate a T-plate, so you did have some rear suspension and tunability, and those things were a lot of fun. They were huge when we first come out. We had probably 20 or 30 of them racing at King, and then slowly started fading away because some guys, as naturally, the fast guys go to the front, and some people were struggling. We tried to help a lot of people to get them up to speed to make it fun for everybody, but once the fast guys figured the car out, it kind of somewhat hurt the class. And that's when we did the spin-off and we did the rubber tire Grand National class using the same electronic setup. And as the vicious cycle goes, the same thing happened. The fast guys, the cream always rises to the top. The fast guys were fast. Slow guys were getting frustrated. And slowly but surely, the class faded away. And then our track closed. So then it didn't matter anymore. Alright, 2 steering blocks made. There's our kingpins, and these are extra short because they don't have springs. There's no room for a spring. You just have a lock nut on top, or just an E-clip and a lock nut on the bottom. Those are some super stubby kingpins. If you're used to pan car racing, these things are about half the length. Alright, we got our nut driver and our shock pliers. I'm going to use these to hold the cross braces in too, because they have a smooth surface. It shouldn't mar it up too bad. And thank our buddy Eric for providing those. Definitely struggled for years just using needle nose and your everyday pliers to build stuff, and these things definitely come in handy and not marring stuff up, especially shocks. And the neat little ball cup extractor and installer. If you build a couple crawlers, it's a lifesaver because all the links. This car doesn't have any linkage other than the Z-bend, so no turnbuckles to build, no shocks to build. We do have, now it's showing me putting an aluminum brace. Of course, I'm not reading words. Okay, there's a slide, and that's where we put this aluminum brace. Okay, I'm not sure what the purpose of having this slotted, unless you're locking it into the motor so you don't knock the motor. I bet it locks the motor in place so you don't have mesh issues when you're bouncing this thing off the ground, because again, these things are pretty abusive to theirself. They beat themselves up. Foam tires come with the kit. They don't generally stand much of a chance when they roll and tumble on pavement much. They just get chunked up, but we're not too worried about that because we're not really going to run this one like that. And when we build the Bug, we'll probably put rubber tires on it. Accelerate makes a cool new rubber tire, and CRC makes a rubber tire. They cost about as much as the kit. They're just under $100. I believe the Accelerates are a little bit cheaper, but they are a rubber pan car tire that will bolt up to these hubs, and that makes it more versatile. Next, it's calling for body post. The truck, the body posts go all the way to the roof. Just by looking at the picture, it don't really specify. I can't quite read the part numbers on the digital picture I've seen. It appears they're like 7 inches long. The biggest that I can find locally, RJ Speed 4-inch. I think they're probably 6 at least. But we do, I think, somewhere, possibly, have the old Trinity purple clipless adapters. But you still have to screw the body to the car. They're probably at least 1 inch long, and they're threaded. And they thread onto this 1/4-20 thread. So if we have to extend these, we have those. Because I don't want to put big holes in the roof. I want to at least either Velcro it or just put the 440 cap head screws to hold the body on like we did back in the day on our pan cars for aerodynamics. So let's skip over body post. We'll do that once we get started on the body. And first things first, I put the steering on the wrong side. That's why I didn't look at the instructions. I built it like a pan car. They want it on the bottom for ride height. So that's a simple fix. And steering block install. If you want to take the time to polish these, you can. But we got a pretty decent servo we're going to put in here. It's a little tight, but steering is going to be a minimal on this thing anyways. Like I said, you could go through here, polish these kingpins, make a little clearance on these steering blocks. They're just molded nylon. But I think as long as they are free enough to move, we're going to be okay for this particular application. If we're building a race car, we'd definitely spend a lot more time on this front kingpin. Those spec mods, we were fitting and polishing everything on them cars, trying to get everything we could get out of it. Up next is the rear axle. It is not a diff. It has 32 pitch gears, and it does come with a pinion gear, so we're good on that. Yep, comes with a tiny one for popping wheelies. And it comes 32 pitch simply because of there's no diff, and it's going to be just bouncing off the ground. Everything's 540, except for the motor. Obviously, the motor will be 3 mil. Set screws, spur gear. Spur gear just bolts to the hub. Comes with a officially licensed Kimbrough spur gear. The OEM of Bowlink. The axle is already pre-machined. It's got notches in it for the set screw to lock in. I know back in the day you'd have to do that yourself with a file or a Dremel. Not a whole lot of precision here. One of them's bigger than the other, and I don't think it's for any particular reason. Possibly, if I read the instructions. I bet one of them is for proper spacing. And just by my instinct is telling me the one with less adjustment is going to be on the spur gear side. Install the axle into the hub, 2 set screws. One of the set screws needs to line up with the drilled indent on the axle. Line it up as shown, and then slide the hub on and tighten. It will be low to the surface of the hub if the set screw is in the slot. Add the other set screw and tighten both evenly to avoid warping the hub. So it's saying there's only one notch, but this one's notched on both ends. And just looking at the fuzzy pictures here, that one appears to be larger, as my instincts had told me, on the passenger side. We're just going to leave one in there since it is notched. And if it fits right, we only need one. We'll put the other one in and just snug it up once this one's tightened up. And you don't need to over tighten these. This is super soft nylon. If you torque it down, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're just going to strip it out. And this one is to install a motor. And for a motor, we got a bunch of leftover silver can 540s from our speed run challenge. So we're going to throw a 540 in it and hope. Looks like we'll be okay. I was hoping the shaft's long enough because that's got a shorty shaft on it. So I don't think we got motor screws. Yes, we did. It comes with motor screws. Motor screws are unique because they are 3 mils. It's the only thing metric on the whole car. This is not taking any time at all, folks. We're going to do this in one evening, I believe. At least the build. All right, first hurdle. The end bell on the motor is too big to go through the hole in the motor, in the chassis. We can slightly, I mean ever so slightly, like a millimeter, hit that with a Dremel tool right here. And because the end bell on this motor is quite fat, I think a standard old school brush motor, like a open end bell motor, would probably fall right into place. Let me hop off and see if we want to clearance this or see if we've got another motor option. All right, we just went with plan A. We got the old Dremel tool out and got a little dusty, and we'll see if it fits. I just did a minimal little grind around there and gave us some room to adjust the motor, and there we go, we're good to go. And it's still really tight there. We got enough meat there. You don't want to get too crazy with it because you're just screwing the fiberglass, and this thing, if you're actually using it as intended, there's a lot of weight back here and a lot of beating and banging. So you want to leave enough material in there not to break the chassis or break the motor off of the chassis. Same deal with these bushings. If you wanted to go through the trouble of polishing them up, or polishing the axle and match them, what I would do sometimes, I would just put this thing in a cordless drill, put some mother's polish on it, just pack it in there and just let it run, and let it do the work itself. All right, my calculations may be off on this slot on the axle, because if we put this hub up against the bushing, if we don't, we're going to be a 1/4 inch off. So it's never too late. You always got time to do it right the second time. That's simple enough. We just got to take it from this side and put it on the other. That easy. What is your major malfunction? All right, there is this indentation. Throw this other screw in here. That felt better. Now we're locked in. Shoo-wee! That thing's tight. Yeah, we may have to do some post-building polish on this thing. It is super tight. I don't like that. All right, we're going to hop off. We're going to throw a little bearing oil on there and work this a little bit. Because even if this thing gets run at all, that motor's going to get instantly hot unless we polish these bushings up a little bit, because it don't spin. Not without quite a bit of force on it. So let me hop off. We'll see if we can free this up a little bit, and then we'll come right back. All right, guys, here's our method. We got the axle chucked up to a drill. Put some Team Exalt bearing lube in here. We're going to spin her up. We're going to do this for about a minute, minute and a half, and then we should be good to go. All right, we got it in there. We got it polished up a little bit. It's not buttery smooth, but it's definitely a lot less effort to spin them. We could continue on with that and keep going if we wanted to, but it's definitely good enough just to put around. And the more you run it, the looser it's going to get, because it's bushings. They're going to wear out, and they'll get to a point where you got to replace them and do the whole thing over again. So let's throw a pinion gear on it and then mount the servo, and then we will have basically a roller. All right, we got to compensate for a little bit of side-to-side play in the rear axle. That's where we're catching it. We're good until the spur gear of the axle moves. Still got to play on the end bell. We don't want to crank this pinion gear down onto the motor either. And we still got good contact when it slides back and forth. We could put another shim in here. Just one of them nylon washers at RJ Speed, like the body washers. I think we're good to go right there. You can throw the rear tires on. The front ones we're going to have to mount up. I didn't pick up any contact cement. We have donuts. We got to mount donuts to these aluminum wheels. And I got to pick up some contact cement. I have not prepared as usual for this build. We're going the budget friendly. This is a Savox budget friendly servo. It's like 18 bucks. Metal Gear. Good brand name. and it's low profile. And I like this, the monotone wires, just red, or no red and white, just gray and black. So it's a clean looking servo. No crazy servo stickers or anything on the top. This has a B for budget. These things don't have a servo mount. We have retrofitted servo mounts in the Legends cars before, but we're going to build this thing OG. And to do so, you have to cut some of the ears off the servo, which is, I'd rather not have to, but it's just part of it. Oh well, let's do it. Make sure we cut the correct side off. Well, it doesn't really matter. We can cut both sides off because the servo is going in with tape. I'm going to get the Dremel tool out and clean this little cut edge off, and then we'll clean everything up with some alcohol. And we're going to use some 3M tape. We're not going to use the kit provided tape because the kit provided tape is fine, but it's the foamy stuff that will kind of too mushy in my opinion. And if you go to pull it off, it leaves all the residue behind on everything. So we're going to clean this up, put some good automotive 3M tape on it, and we'll be right back. All right, we got the chassis cleaned up, we got the servo cleaned up, we got the ear removed. And keeping with the Kimbrough theme, we picked up a Kimbrough servo saver. The car doesn't come with a servo saver of any kind. So you have to provide that. We can't use the screw that comes with the servo saver because we got a metal gear servo. And it appears as if it goes downwards. Make sure we're correct here. Yes. Got my dyslexia on overload here. Trying to build this thing without reading any instructions. Let's see if this thing is centered manually. Pretty close. All right, we're good to go on that. Get this screw in without, use a provided lock washer that comes with the screw and the servo. It's the only Phillips screw on the entire car. Now why are we not tightening it up? The screw's not long enough. Well, it's too big to go into the countersink of the servo saver. So what we're going to do, it's just a 3. It might be a 3. Hopefully it's a 3, not a 2.5. Let's go see if we can find a longer 3. Alright, the screw that comes with the servo is probably about a 3x6. And it won't quite go through the servo saver. So, you have to use the provided screw with the servo. Well, if you do the provided screw with the servo, you got to use like a servo horn. This thing's being so much thicker, being a servo saver. That's where we run into problems. So, problem solved. And we got about a 3x12-ish, 3x10. Ought to be fine. I don't think it'll go too far in. And yes, I just confirmed the threads match, so I turned it in by hand there. Could use some thread locker here. Probably wouldn't be a terrible idea, but we're going to just wing it. Again, this thing's probably not going to get run a whole lot. Alright, change old camera angle to the dangle. A lot of guys, this would be like the first thing they would upgrade. It's like the first thing people upgrade on their Legends car. But I've actually raced and had success. Of course, you're going to have success if you don't hit the wall with it. Because they are susceptible to getting out of adjustment real easy, like, because they're just held together with these collars. There's no threads. You just got two little pieces of like 078 music wire sliding through these collars. Very primitive design, but it works. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think we have to do that other curve. That one there's got a curve in it right here. for clearance. Same deal there, you just put it in your steering block, bend it over, get your collar on, and then do some more eyeballing. Okay, this is where we might, no, we got clearance. So we might run into a clearance issue with the, when you sandwich the two links together. But I think we're going to be okay. This is the initial setup. We're not committed to this. Probably stand a little bit of a bend right here, up. Or we could have used a longer servo saver. So let me get this other side together, and if we have to, we'll just put a little kink in it right there just for clearance. No biggie. Alright guys, I did end up putting a little bend in it. You see that right there ever so slightly. You still got plenty of adjustability here, because you got to make sure these collars aren't hitting the chassis either. And also, if your wheel, it ain't going to hit the wheel, but as far as your steering, when you go full lock both ways, you want to make sure we're not getting caught in the chassis here. So we still got plenty of adjustability, full steering, and I think we're ready for some tires. We may not even need to buy this kit when I did, but I was thinking we might have been missing more. So we got a bonus kit. We'll end up with an extra truck. There's the rears. Of course, no fronts. All right, guys, we made a few changes since we were on camera there last. I took the 440 nylon nuts off and ended up just using the body post as intended, but not using them to mount the body. We ended up putting them on there and cutting them down so they wouldn't have any chance of hitting the side of the body, because these are part of the factory battery retention system, which is this O-ring. It just hangs off the post and it stretches it over the battery and it holds the battery in the car. We could probably utilize some Velcro. We could probably use some Velcro in the center. But since we had to fab up a rear body mount system, just went ahead and used those and just trimmed them up so they're not so long, so there's no chance of them touching the paint. Also, the Trinity adjustable screw-on pan car aero body mount system. These are tapped at 440 and they're 1/4 thread in here, and it added just enough length. So evidently, these are 4-inch posts. So evidently 4 to 5 inch is what you need for this truck body on this particular chassis. Our shop didn't have any, so we used a 4-inch and we used these. And this is going to be a cleaner look. The body does have the dimples already provided to where to drill the holes. And we're going to mount the body with just 2 440 cap head screws, and they'll be really nice up there. And then on the rear, we're using these RJ Speed brackets, which is part number 5282. And this is the 440 90-degree bracket. We had to drill a hole in the chassis, and I'm going to fab up a little plate to screw to that, and then we can mount the body post onto that, because you do have 2 provisions back here too. And we're close with those brackets, but to get the brackets back where they need to be, we're going to end up impeding our motor as far as adjustability, if we ever decided to change pinion gear for any reason. So we're going to just make a little plate out of some scrap fiberglass or some carbon fiber, and just make a plate and put the 2 body posts on it. So, and lastly, we got to get these front tires on. I did not film the gluing process. It's kind of messy, not really messy, but kids today don't know the struggle of mounting donuts. I kind of miss it because it's kind of satisfying when you do it. But with the Kimbrough theme, with everything else we got going on, this is a Kimbrough tire mounting cone. Basically, you just set it on your wheel, and once you got your glue set up, you just slide it over it. But the trick to that is, we're using Weldwood contact cement. Just brush a thin coat on the rim itself, and then a thin coat on the inside of the tire. And as contact works, you got to wait for it to tack up, and it gets to a certain point. And then to get this over the wheel and not get it stuck halfway across, you just mist it with a little bit of lacquer thinner, and I did this at work because we have a spray bottle with lacquer thinner in it. We misted this with lacquer thinner. I misted the cone. We set it on there like so with everything and just run it on there. So let's head over to the tire truer. We'll get these things trimmed up and turned down, and then we'll get them mounted up and have this thing rolling. All right, guys, welcome to the tire truing station here. We don't have much room for all this stuff, but we're just going to use this RD Logic. It has a universal CRC all-wheel adapter. And I did put a piece of masking tape on this wheel. That is this face. It's not polished, but we don't want to scratch up the machine finish with the arbor. Now, if we do, we can simply hit it with a Scotch-Brite and get the finish back. But just to get a little bit of protection, we're going to put a piece of tape on it. First off, we're going to cut this tire. I'm not measuring anything. I'm going to cut it a little bit fat on the lip here, because I think we can hone it in with sandpaper once we get it cut. And then we'll true up to the size we're desired, probably slightly smaller than the rears, and then repeat the process. Don't do what I do. All right, we're creeping up on it. We got about another, we'll take another 1/8 inch off. We are really close to the wheel. We're about 1/8 from the wheel. We'll trim it just a hair more. All right, I think we're well within sandability. So we're going to go ahead and start with the outer diameter first. All right, our rear tire measures out about, we can do this in inches. We're at 2.5 inches roughly. We're starting at 2.75, so we got to cut down 1/4 inch of tire. We'll go just a little bit less. We'll probably go down to like 2.4, just to give a little bit of stagger. And nothing to do but to do it now. This is a manual tire truer. I got the automatic right here, but we're not going to use it on these. Mainly because I've never used it before. This one used to be automatic, and then the switch broke, and I just welded an Allen wrench to the end of the rod here and made it manual. The switch broke, and then it proceeded to strip the gears out, so there was no hope for just changing the switch. All right, we're doing baby steps here. Can't just dig in, because if you dig in, it's going to get hot, and it'll start making your tire get kind of smeared, and or it'll heat your motor up on your truer. Definitely where the automatic feature would come in handy. All right, we're gonna hop off here, and once we get this one cut down, we'll show you the results. All right, we're getting close. We'll get something a little bit more aggressive. That 120 ain't doing a whole lot. It's just like body work. If your sandpaper is not aggressive enough, you're just creating heat. And we're really close. I want to see the edge of the wheel. If we sand the edge of the wheel, that's fine. It'll clean it up, because it's got a little bit of glue on it from the gluing process. All right, there should be one wheel completed there. Let's see what we got. Brand new. Let's go compare it to the other. All right, we're about identical diameter to the rears. You can't see that on the camera right there exactly, but we're about dead on it. We wanted to be slightly smaller than the rears, and I think we're like 1/10 of an inch, so it's hardly noticeable. But there's your before and after. Pretty cool. This wheel, originally, like I said, we were going to cut the face on it, but I think we're going to be fine. We're just going to let it stick out a little bit. And if he wants to put narrow drag wheels on it, there's plenty available. You can put the little O-ring front wheels on it. But we're going to leave these wheels as is. So let's go wrap this one up and get this thing rolling. All right, we cleaned the wheels up a little bit more. Got some residue off with some sandpaper here on the edge. I did take a reamer and slightly clearance the wheel. These are machined, so it's really tight tolerance, and these bushings are kind of inconsistent. So just press those in. That's something if you got to be keep in mind if you're running bearings with such tight tolerances. If you get them in there, you're gonna have a hard time getting them out without damaging or destroying them, or destroying them on the way in. So ever so slightly, just knock the edge off the wheel, and they slid in. They're still pressed to fit, but this car does not need bearings, especially if you're going to run it a lot, because it kind of bounces off the ground and it bounces on its wheels. So there's no suspension. So that's free enough. All right, here's our finished product. Very simple car, not a whole lot to it. Wouldn't have taken as long as it did if we didn't have to do a little bit of fabricating to make the other body fit. But we got the body fitting. I'm not going to show making that plate in the back. It's just a flat plate with 4 holes in it with a body post. So there you go. It is going to be mounted up. Prefer to put drag wheels in the front, because if you're going to run this thing with these standard size wheels, they do stick out quite a bit, as you can see there. And you'll have to chop the body up quite a bit so to get steering radius and clearance. So we're going to leave that up to him once we paint it. So it'll look cool sitting on the shelf for the meantime. And if you want to run it, I suggest getting some drag wheels. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to check the links below for your Guru gear. You got shirts, stickers, and all that good stuff. And stay tuned for a future design that's coming soon. And yeah, we'll see you Wednesday with our normal Wednesday update video. And hopefully we'll be painting this thing here and get it wrapped up. All right, guys, I'm done talking. We will see you Wednesday. Thanks.